Okay, we are now going to reconvene the meeting of the Planning Local Review Body held on the 27th of October. The following members are present. So sorry, we've got apologies now from Councillor Ali Callison. Councillors Jerry Convery and Colin Dewar are present. Councillor Gladys Ferguson-Miller is not present. Councillors Cal Johnson Dempsey and Leslie MacDonald are present. We have apologies from Councillor Nelson, and Councillors Norman Ray, Graham Scott and David Shearer are all present. And before I pass you back to the Chair, I'll just advise members that the third item on the agenda we will take from the start again, so that all members are fully aware of the circumstances. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Stuart. And sorry about this delay, folks, but it's out of our control. Is there any declaration of interest?
No.
We'll take that as a no. No. The previous minutes, can we have them moved and seconded again, please?
I'll move them, Chair.
It's been moved and seconded. Thank you. Any matters arising from the minutes? If no, that's same agreed. Okay, folks, now we're going into the business for today. The first item of business is item number 3. It's a case review. It's the application P/24/1305 for the erection of a dwelling house, in brackets, accommodation for farm worker at Bog Hill Farm, Bog Hill Road, Biggar, and it's on pages 15 to 26. The item before, I would ask members to note that this review was not acknowledged within the stipulated timescale due to staff being on leave during the Council summer recess period, combined with an increase in the number of notices of review being received. An apology and an explanation for the delay were provided to the agent. The applicant is asking the PLRB to review the planning officer's decision to refuse planning application to said item for the erection of the dwelling house accommodation for the farm worker at Bog Hill Farm, Bog Hill Road, Biggar. Details of the proposal, the officer's report of handling and information submitted by the applicant are provided in the papers that have been distributed to members on the relevant pages 15 to 126 of the papers. Before commencing the review, I'll ask the planning advisor to advise on a procedural matter. Tony, please.
Yep, thank you, Chair. This matter relates to the appellant's statement of case that has been submitted, and in particular to page 80 of the papers before you, in which there's a claim that the decision notice on the original application is unlawful. So the decision notice that was issued by the Council, and you can see it on page 79 on page 67 of the papers, includes 6 reasons for refusal. Now, they all point to the non-compliance of the proposal with policies in both NPF4 and also the local development plan. So the key question here is whether separately it's clear that what the reasons for that decision were. In this case, the reasons for refusal are evident, as we've seen. And in addition, the report of handling sets out the reasoning for reaching the decision to refuse consent. So the reader of the decision notice can be no doubt about the reasons for the decision to refuse the application. Separately, when the applicant became aware of what they considered to be an illegal decision notice, they did have the opportunity to seek a judicial review. Now, that should have been lodged within 3 months of the original decision. However, they failed to do so in this case, and the time period for legal challenge has now expired. So notwithstanding this, the PLRB today are reviewing only the decision to refuse the original application, and you have no remit to consider whether or not that decision notice was illegal or not. As I said before, the papers before you clearly identify the reasons the application was refused, and there is sufficient information before you to carry out the review today. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Tony. Right, consideration of the decision on how to proceed. The first point for the PLRB to consider and decide is how to proceed with the review. The applicant has indicated that they consider the review can be determined on the basis of the information provided by them and other parties and without any further procedures. taking account of what is in our papers, we have to decide whether they do in fact contain sufficient information for us to determine the review today, or do we need more written information, a hearing or a visit to the site. I think that all the information we have, plus the detailed photographs we have of the site, provides us all with that we need to consider the review. Is there any comments to that? Okay. Pardon? No hands raised. Okay, we'll carry on. Do the members therefore agree that we can proceed without a site visit, hearing or additional information? Can we? Thank you. We can proceed to the review, open the review for discussion. Is there any comments or questions? Norman?
Thank you, Chair. Just a question around the sort of reasons of refusal. In sort of some similar applications before, we see that where is a house being built for a farm succession, that is often permitted within the policy. In this case, if I'm understanding it correctly, it was rejected because the farm is right on the edge of the settlement of Biggar, and therefore farm workers, potentially, whether in part of the family or otherwise, could live within that settlement and walk to the farm to work there. So I suppose I'm trying to understand where the difference lies in terms of that allowance for building accommodation for a farm succession. Does it therefore vary depending on how close to a settlement that is, if that makes sense?
Thanks very much for your contribution. I'll ask Tony to try and deliberate for all members to give them a clearer explanation to that. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chair. So the proposal in this case, it's for a house for a full-time agricultural worker, or proposed to be a full-time agricultural worker, to come in to replace the applicant when he retires from the farm. So in general terms, in policy terms, NPF4 and local development plan both, in principle, allow for succession planning of this nature. However, that doesn't mean it's a carte blanche blankets to say, yes, you've got to look into other factors to determine whether the proposal is appropriate in that particular case. Now here, in terms of the location of the site, it's unusual in that a farm is adjoining a settlement boundary. We don't often get that. But that kind of, so when you look at whether the siting is appropriate or not, and whether the house is justified, you have to consider, first of all, are there any appropriate alternatives to a new house being built. Now, in this particular case, there is an existing farmhouse on the site. There's also a property that's been used as a short-term let, so there's opportunities there for that house to be, or the farm worker's house to be accommodated with that accommodation or those buildings. There's also some vacant buildings on site at the moment, which again could be opportunities to convert rather than build a new house. And finally, just come to the point you made, Councillor Ray, yes, because the site is so close to the settlement in the town of Biggar, it doesn't look like it's been explored that there's appropriate accommodation within the town itself to serve the needs of the farm. So the applicant hasn't demonstrated that those factors or those solutions have been considered or ruled out. So for that reason, the view of the officer was that the proposal wasn't complying with policy.
Sorry. Is there any other colleague want to ask anything?
No hands raised, Chair.
Okay. Sorry. The applicant is asking the PLRB to review the planning office determination and refuse planning permission for the erection of the dwelling house accommodation for a farm worker at Boghill Farm, Boghill Road, Biggar. If we consider that there is no valid policy justification to support the proposals at this location, excuse me, it would not accord with the development plans. Planning permission can be refused for the reasons set out in the decision notice issued on the 11th of July 25. Or if we consider there is adequate justification to grant planning permission for the proposals at this location, we could grant planning permission subject to conditions. I invite a decision and reasons. Is there any? If there's no hands raised, I am going to move that we reject the planning application.
I'll second that, Chair.
Is there anybody otherwise minded?
No.
That's a unanimous decision of the committee. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Therefore, the decision of the PLRB is to refuse planning permission for the reasons set out in the decision notice issued on the 11th of July 25. Therefore, the decision of the PLRB is the next stage. We will write the decision notice will be issued by the PLRB, and that should be issued to the appellant within 28 days. Thank you. To item number 4, review case application P2025/0470 for the erection of a 2-storey side extension, first floor extension above garage and associated alterations at 83 Moat Hill, Hamilton, pages 127 to 204. Beg your pardon. I'll just take you through this. The item before us is a notice of review from KS Architectural on behalf of Mr Naveed Ahmed. The applicant is asking the PLRB to review the planning officer's decision to refuse planning application P/25/0470 for the erection of a 2-storey side extension, first floor extension above garage and associated alterations at 83 Moat Hill, Hamilton. Details of the proposals, the officer's report of the handling and information submitted by the applicant are provided in the papers that have been distributed to members on pages 127 to 204 of the papers. Consideration of the decisions on how we proceed. The first point for the PLRB to decide is how to proceed with the review. The applicant has indicated that they consider the review procedure should include a hearing, session and a site inspection. Taking account of what is in our papers, we have to decide whether we do in fact it does in fact contain sufficient information for us to determine the review today, or we need more written information, a hearing or a site visit. I think all the information we have, plus the detailed photographs we have of the site, provides us all with need. We will need to consider this review. Is there any otherwise minded comments?
No, I agree, Chair.
Anybody else got a different point of view? If not, we'll carry on. Do the members therefore agree we can proceed without a site visit, hearing or different information?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you very much. We can then proceed to the review, open the review for discussion. Is there anybody who want to make any contribution? No hands, okay. Can I summarise the points made? The applicant is asking the PLB to review the planning officer's determination to refuse planning permission for the erection of the 2-storey side extension, first floor extension above garage and associated alterations at 83 Moat Hill, Hamilton. If we consider there is no valid policy justification to support the proposals at this location, it would not accord with the development plan. Planning permission can be refused for the reasons set out in the decision notice issued on the 23rd of June 2025. Or if we consider there is adequate justification to grant planning permission for the proposals at this location, we could grant planning permission subject to conditions. I now invite decisions and reasons. If there's no hands, are members minded to uphold the officer's decision to refuse planning permission?
Yes.
Right. That's been moved and seconded. Therefore, we refuse. There's nobody else otherwise minded. So the view of the PLRB board is to refuse planning permission. Therefore, the decision, the next stage is that, once again, a written decision will be issued by the PLRB, and that will be issued to the appellant within 28 days, colleagues. Okay. I have no urgent business, and thank everybody for coming today. And very sorry for the mess to begin with today, but it was out of our control. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Chair.